Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Dick, come on up. Dick's got a few things to say.
Well, first, again, I'd like to thank this crew that are back with us and some new. Terry, we're welcome. And, you know, these are, I've gotten to know all of them to some degree, some a little more, and they're real people. And they have passions, and I found out a couple of these things, and it makes it even more interesting that they're sharing this kind of passion on this, but they've got other interests too, like, Dylan is told me his new book he's writing is the physics of surfing. And surfing, I think, is his real passion. Because was it last year you left for a little early? He cut out a little early, but he was here. But he saved everything so he could make it to catch a flight that night. He and his wife and daughter to go to Portugal, to the beaches over there, one of the surfing capitals of the world, right? So I'm looking forward to reading the physics of surfing, and I'd like to introduce, if we haven't yet, but we will more adequately introduce David Gessner. But David is again a real person. He doesn't consider himself a scientist, but he's been writing 13 different books. I think I read on one of your fly pages of one of the books, and many of them almost on environmental issues. So he kind of considers himself, but we share a thing also, just an interest in what's going to happen after us, and he has focused this new book, and you'll hear more about it, on what the world is going to be like when his daughter is 60 years old, and that's the year 2063 that we've mentioned, right?
Well, we've said 2063, 64, 61.
But she was born in 2003, right?
Correct.
And you heard a little bit from my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters, Emery Hill. She was born also in 2003 and will be 60 years old in 2063. And so what will the world, including bald heads, it's a little personal. Those of you that, if you notice the page on the back page of the backside of the agenda here, I guess Chris, some of the team have put together a little of the background. You know, we started the Conservancy. We had a lot of leaders that were involved. We had a project called 2020, a planning and then a campaign, and we raised money and we designed and built a building, and I was privileged to be part of that group and the Barrier Island Study Center. And we did it all. It was designed to be LEED certified. So this, and that's a governmental, quasi-governmental agency that kind of measures it. It's too bureaucratic for my taste, but they still do a reasonably good job, as good a job as it can be done, I guess. And we achieved gold LEED status. And I think it's the only building on Bald Head that really has met that criteria, and it's important. So we've been working at that, and this whole sustainability focus is maybe to kind of re-energize that perspective of sustainability, and there are different definitions, and that is I'll put in just I don't want to make it a plug because it's still not mature work, but it's something that we're working on right now, and Pat and I just signed up for the next step for us in sustainable energy management, and we're going to put in solar and solar battery backup. And I just want to mention this because there's a date certain, I think, or it's not a date certain, but there's a number of spots. The interesting thing is right now, I think that things have converged. Those of you that own homes, you may want to look at this. And I got 20 copies of just a kind of a sample document from the energy company that we're working with, Southern Energy Management in Raleigh. And they're, I think, the leading company in the state of North Carolina. They've been at it for 23 years. And they've got the best, most experience, I think. There's another good company in Wilmington. You can take a look at us. But these guys have really, I think, set themselves apart. And there is a tax credit right now that's like 30%. So the investment you get back dollar for dollar back from 30% of it back from the government. But the interesting thing that one of the things that's changed for this year, starting in May, new projects. This company has negotiated with Duke Energy, and they've got a rebate of $9,000 if you put in solar and the solar battery backup, which means you can run your air conditioning and your internet and your TVs and your refrigeration, and you can charge your golf cart. So it's going to be interesting. It's new work. We just signed. We're going to do ours. They're going to do the project in May or June of this year. But what that translates in this sample that's in this little flyer that they've put together is 30-day. They have a price on a sample here. This is kind of an average. It's a little more than we're putting in. Of $34,350, and that's for 22 solar panels. That's again a typical one they're saying. There's this Duke rebate of $9,000. There's a 30% tax credit, in this case of $10,300. So rather than paying the $34,350, they'll pay the homeowner here will pay $15,045. So it's like you're only paying 44% of the cost of the thing. So it's worth thinking about, and that's there's a number that they have budgeted. I think it's 6,000 installed statewide. So that'll last maybe a year, maybe a year and a half. So anyway, the homeowners, if you're interested, pick up one of these. Anybody else, if they don't run out, pick one up, or if not, ask me and I'll send you an electronic copy of it. But I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. We talked about, and Chris repeated Dylan's definition of sustainability, and exogenous. Not only do I have trouble pronouncing it, I still have trouble remembering what it means. So we kind of, though, that definition, in working on this, we simplified a little bit, and the staff put out a little press release, and they asked Pat and me for a quote, and we thought about that, and my version of simplifying it is to focus on doing everything we can to conserve our coastal home for those coming after us. And Pat added to that in a way that only she can do it, those that know her. She says, our family have been impacted by bald head for decades, and we want it to remain a loving spot for them and others in years to come. And yeah, that's maybe a little corny, but it's our non-physics definition of